pledge to you has always to be honest and transparent and share as much information as I can about what I'm doing. So I am here to be held accountable to you, the people, because we, the people, are the ones who have formed together against the odds, against everything really, to form this massive, massive army to fight the gun laws. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for supporting me. I just want to go back and recap where we are at now and how we got to this point. So we now know the result of the Western Australian state election that was held on Saturday, the 8th of March. I voted, a lot of people I know voted as well, and we did not get the result that we hoped for. We now know that in the upper house, we do not have the balance of power held by minor parties who support us. That's what everyone was praying and hoping for. We now have a situation in WA which is, I would say, worse than we were in before this election. We have the Greens controlling the balance of power in the upper house, and I have spoken about that in my last live stream. If you tuned into that, I spoke about what that could mean and the ramifications for Western Australia as a big mining state. To have the Greens hold the balance of power now, it's just, we will see what happens. So we now know that we will not have the opportunity to have our politicians review the Firearms Act and regulations. We now know that that is not going to happen. That is not a policy the Greens ran on. So we will not get that review that we all desperately wanted. So that is the position we are now in Western Australia. And I encourage you, if you want to learn or listen to other people talk about the political situation in the West, my dear friends Mark and Sam, they put out a video this week. I was humbled to be mentioned, and the support that they gave to me and encouragement of people to support me. I didn't know it was coming. I've only met Mark and Sam once. We were both at the Western Australian Firearms Community Alliance inaugural meeting. That was the only time I've met them. I've had no communication with them since. My dad is a huge fan of their show, so I've seen their content, and they're just inspiring people from the West. And to see his video that he put out, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting me. And thank you for recapping the WA political situation, because it is a moving beast. It is very different in WA to the rest of Australia, politically, culturally. It could be its own country. That's my hope one day, a secession of WA, but that's a subject for another time. So thank you to Mark and Sam for their support that came without me asking. And it's just been so incredibly humbling this week to see the support that I've received. So let's talk about the Legal Action Challenge. That's why you're tuning in. You're not here to have a Jamison with me, although it is St. Paddy's Day tomorrow. I am half Irish, so I am celebrating. I shouldn't be using this Carlton cup. We do not want to talk about football. Please do not mention Carlton in the comments. My dad and I are very upset already with the season. So, but cheers. Thanks for joining me on this Sunday night. So I just want to recap the situation in Western Australia and the Legal Action Challenge. So back in January, early this year, I was seriously considering running in the state election in the seat of Secret Harbour against Police Minister Paul Papalia. I had run in 2022 in the Senate race, where I ran on a Give Gun Owners a Fair Go campaign. This was when they started the attacks on firearm owners in that state with the terrible doxing incident. I had been pre-selected to run for the Liberal Democrats, the former party of former Senator David Leyonhjelm. They do not exist anymore, unfortunately. There is a new iteration of that party called the Libertarian Party, but it is not the same party that I ran for, nor is it the party of Senator David Leyonhjelm. So back in January this year, I was approached by quite a few parties to run as a candidate, an independent candidate in that seat who was endorsed by multiple parties, which is almost unheard of. I've mentioned before Dan Andrews in Victoria, they had an independent candidate there, Ian Cook, who all the minor parties got behind to try and unseat him. A similar plan was being discussed for Police Minister Paul Papalia. I was the person who was getting the calls about that, and I had to make the decision because while that was going on, I was also talking to lawyers and the legal side of town, who were surprised that no one had turned to them to see if we could fight the laws and the regulations that were released in December, very last minute, in the courts. So I had to weigh up the option of running for office again, and with my vote from the Senate, I would have been guaranteed a seat in the upper house. It's almost incredible to say. But from my numbers in the Senate, and if I could build on them as well, I would have been elected in the election. But I decided I didn't want to put myself in a position where I could be less help to the people, because my mission in all of this, and my mission since I started Lady Liberty Australia, has been to be someone who can stand up for shooters and do whatever it takes to defend us from the laws that our governments are introducing. Yes, as a member of parliament, I would have a platform. I might have had some power, but with the election result, I would have no power, because remember, the Greens hold the power in the upper house now. The minor parties can't do much, if anything. Yes, you can get your message out there on Hansard. Yes, you will get some media attention, but what can you tangibly do for the people when Labor and the Greens hold all the power? So I made the decision to take my hat out of that ring. It was a very hard decision. I know it disappointed a lot of people, but I read the tea leaves and I thought, this is not going to deliver the best results for Western Australian shooters. So during that time, I was also speaking to lawyers, many lawyers, not just one, about a potential legal challenge to the laws, because no one has gone out and got the official legal advice to say where we can challenge these laws. Big piece of information that has been missing in the debate. And a lot of people, everyone has an opinion, and you are entitled to that opinion. I believe in free speech. That doesn't mean I have to listen, and that does not mean I have to put up with some of the comments that I have seen on Facebook today, which I'll get to tonight. Don't want to get too angry too early. I've only had 2 sips of Jameson. But I made that decision to go with a law firm that talked to me and talked through the potential things we could do if we got the official legal advice from a King's Counsel, the highest lawyer you can get to operate in that space. And that cost was a lot of money. So I signed a contract back with my lawyers to say I would pay for the advice and I would go out and crowdfund. That's the position I put myself in personally, and my new husband, Mr. Liberty. I put myself in that position that if I did not raise enough money that I listed on my GoFundMe at the time, I would have to stump up the rest and put myself in that financial position, because I felt that I needed to do this for the people of Western Australia. I made that commitment at the very start when I spoke to the lawyers that, yes, even if I don't raise enough money, we need this advice. This is the missing piece of the puzzle. This is a chessboard. Everybody is focused on the political solution. No one has used the other side of town, the legal side, the justice system. No one has gone to them and said, are these laws legals? Where can we challenge them on? What are we doing? So I decided that I would be the person to do that. I didn't want to do that. I'm newly married. I have a life of my own to start. I have my own career to build. But I wanted, because I wasn't running for the people of Western Australia, I took that risk and I signed that contract. And I have been so overwhelmed. I only made the target late on election night to pay for this first bit of work. And I'd already preemptively booked in meetings with the King's Counsel and my legal team for the Monday after the election, despite not having raised enough money at that point in time, because I am so committed to this fight. I cannot sit idly by and watch injustice, especially for my community, the shooters of Australia. You might have heard me talk about this before, but I'm old enough to remember 96 and what they did to my father. This is why there is passion burning inside of me, and I will take risks that other people would run away from, because I believe that people deserve justice and they need someone to fight for them. Relying on a political party or a political candidate or an organisation to save us, we can't do that. We are convinced, we are almost brainwashed into thinking that we are powerless as individuals to fight against this kind of injustice, that we should rely on someone else, whether it's the state, whether it's our organizations, a political party, a candidate. We cannot have that mentality. We as individuals have the power to fight if we have someone to lead that we can trust. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you, the people, did not put me in a position where I would have to bankrupt myself to pay for this advice to help you. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I am so glad that I made the right decision and took on the risk, because now it is reaping us rewards. So I went in to meet the legal team on Monday following the election. It was only Monday this week. Time has flown by so fast. There's a lot going on. So I went in to meet them. I put a video up as soon as I got back, and I had the ability to tell you what happened. And I put the call out to people, because in the meeting with the lawyers, it took most of the day to sit there with the King's Counsel. I asked a lot of questions. I gave a lot of directions. I shared a lot of stories that I had heard about, relayed to him the situation that we are in. It's fair to say that he couldn't believe it. And we sat there and we went through the Act and regulations line by line, page by page, to the point where there was one thing almost on every page that we flagged. This is the biggest legislation and regulations ever written in WA. This is the magnitude of what we're talking about here. I just want people to acknowledge that, because initially, and I know I have said in the past, that I would be meeting with the lawyers and the advice would be given to me within 3 to 4 days. That meeting that I went to with my King's Counsel and my legal team revealed just how much we can challenge. And now the hard part that my team is working on as we speak, they are looking through the Act and regulations and developing a strategy of where we can challenge areas of the laws and regulations in the court. Now, it is true at the start, I only agreed to pay for this advice, this very important advice that has been missing from the debate. Whether you like it or not, we need this advice, and that costs time, it costs money, and you need to get the highest lawyer to look at this. This is the level that I have gone to. I never skimp out. When I do something, I do it properly. Otherwise, it's not worth doing it at all. So this is the situation we are in. Since then, I have had another meeting with my lawyer directly to talk to him about some other things that I've been I've been made aware of, because after I put out my video on Monday, my legal team instructed me the work that I can do while my King's Counsel is going through the Act and regulation and writing this gigantic piece of advice to give to me, is to start gathering evidence. Now is the time for people to tell me their stories and let me know what situation you're in. Have you received a letter from WAPOL, a surrender letter? What does it say? What guns are they looking at taking off of you? Document the evidence about those firearms, why you bought it, photos of it, why you need it. This is evidence that we can all use in the future for future legal action challenges. That is what I've been directed on. Mr. Liberty is interrupting my rant to say ask for questions. So please, if you have any questions, let me know. Just hand you that because it's turned off. So that's what I've been doing in this last week. I have been bombarded, overwhelmed with communications from people, telling me their stories, and I thank you for sharing them with me. I have received so much information and so many stories from people telling me the situation they're in, and it's just been overwhelming to read some of the stories that I've heard from people. My heart just goes out to you for the situation you have been put in by the government. So that is what I have been working on this past week. And please, I'll just finish on this point before I get to all the chats. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. I go on a rant and then I tune out. If you have a story, and you're affected by the laws, send me an email, ladyliberty.walegal@gmail.com, ladyliberty.walegal@gmail.com. If you have messaged me on Facebook or Instagram, I'm sorry, I have not even opened them. I need to get all this information in an email because I have a filing system. I've gone through and I've replied to everyone as of today. I've spent my weekend doing that. So thank you for sharing your stories with me, and prepare for the next step.